HD. You're watching KGUN-9 on your side. Good morning, Tucson.
Good morning to you. We begin this morning with continuing coverage of a wildfire still burning out of control in Kearney, Arizona this morning.
Look at those flames. The fire is only 60 miles from Tucson. Some see it from Mount Lemmon. So far, fire crews say it's burned more than 300 acres. 300 people had to spend the night in shelters and hotels after being evacuated from that area.
Flames have already destroyed 2 structures and are still a threat to many other people this morning. And that's where we can find 9 on your side's Megan Thompson live in Kearney right now with the latest on this fire. Megan, what do you see?
Liz and Greg, the smell of smoke is simply overpowering. And as you can see behind me, there is a lot of smoke taking over this city over here. Lots of smoke billowing. The smell is intense. And we saw a little bit of flames going up over there a little bit earlier this morning. Like you said, this fire is burning out of control. 200 people are battling this 300-acre blaze. But still, crews have 0% containment on this. Many of those who live in Kearney trapped on the outside, hoping their homes will survive. Burning along the river bottom.
There's a lot of lumber down there. You can see all the green follows the river, and it's right by Kearney, so plus the desert, you know, dry wood.
Already 2 homes destroyed and about 200 more are at risk.
It's quite an area down by the river there, and it's very remote. There seems to be a lot of people trying to help out from various agencies.
And weather conditions aren't helping 5 crews get the fire under control.
The wind is not helping at all. You can feel it.
From above and on the ground, teams are working to get a handle on it so people can get back to their families and hopefully their homes.
It's just barely starting, you know what I mean?
And at this hour, the wildfire is still under investigation on how it all started. But again, the biggest concern this morning is the weather. How is the weather going to be? Because those high temperatures, the humidity, everything comes into play when it comes to battling a wildfire that is completely 0% contained. So let's send it over to April Madison to figure out what kind of conditions these fire crews are going to be dealing with. April?
Unfortunately, Megan, I don't think it's going to be a whole lot better today. Taking a look at the Kearney forecast, it's going to be extremely hot in that area. And as you mentioned, it's rural, so tends to be a little bit windier in that area, even if we don't expect a windy day. Take a look. We're expecting up to 113 degrees in Kearney today. Winds pretty typical of that area, 11 to 16 miles per hour, gusting into the 20s early on, and that could be even stronger later in the afternoon. So strong winds combined with low humidity and the warm temps, that potential for that rapid fire growth is still there, unfortunately. So again, it's just not going to be real ideal for firefighters to get control. The earlier they get out there, and of course they already are, the better chance they'll start getting a hold of it before the winds really pick up in the late afternoon. Back here in Tucson, we broke a record. The question now, will we break more? I'll have an answer for you coming up. Big Al, how are the roads looking out there?
April, a couple of things. One of them in Flowing Wells and then one of them up in Oro Valley. We'll start with the Flowing Wells issue because that is a closure. And this is the last day of this closure. An emergency sewer repair on Romero Road. Now, you can get through most of the way on Romero, but between Gardner Lane and Root Lane, you cannot get through. That is the real no man's land right there. And so we beat the traffic by using Flowing Wells again today. Up in the area of Oro Valley, right here near the Foothills Mall, southbound La Cholla at Ina is busy. Also southbound La Cañada at McGee, a little busy this morning. But right now, starting at 7, Lambert and La Cañada for photo enforcement from Oro Valley, the high visibility enforcement that they do there from time to time on Oracle. They usually do it once a month in that spot at La Cañada and Lambert Lane. That's the latest from the Beat the Traffic Center.
Big Al, thank you. Happening right now, tragedy in Charleston, South Carolina. A manhunt underway after a shooter opened fire on a Bible study class last night. 9 people were killed, and police are now calling it a hate crime.
And police just releasing these pictures of the suspect. They describe him as a white man with sandy blonde hair in his early 20s who's about 5'9" in height. He was last seen wearing a gray sweatshirt, blue jeans, and Timberland boots. Police believe he's still in the Charleston area, but they still have contacted other nearby law enforcement offices to be on the lookout. They say he is very dangerous and may be armed.
The shooting happened at 9 o'clock last night at Emmanuel African Methodist Episcopalian Church. That's one of the oldest black churches in the South. According to the Charleston police chief this morning, the gunman reportedly walked into the church at around 8 o'clock in the evening and attended about an hour of that Bible study meeting before opening fire. As we mentioned, police and the city's mayor are calling this a hate crime.
The only reason someone could walk into church and shoot people praying is out of hate. The only reason. That it is the most dastardly act that one can possibly imagine.
Local and state police and the FBI agents are searching for the suspect this morning. The church is holding a vigil today for the victims. 8 died at the scene, another died at the hospital later. 6 of the victims are women, 3 are men. We don't have an age range for you yet because the victims are not identified. Forest Coroner working to notify their families first before we do that. However, we do know one of the victims, a man named Clementa Pinckney, was a state senator and a pastor known as a pillar of that community.
We keep getting new information as this story continues to develop, and we will stay on top of this throughout the morning. Back home, new details this morning coming out about the troubled relationship between a University of Arizona female athlete and one of the school's former coaches. Now, this case report released by the U of A police details some of the 57 texts and emails that officers say Coach Craig Carter sent to that victim in less than 1 week, including one that said, quote, "I'm watching you." In another text message sent with a photo, Coach Carter appeared to be holding a black gun barrel to his mouth with a text saying that, quote, he was going to kill himself if she didn't contact him in the next 5 minutes. When officers interviewed Carter, he said the victim told him she never loved him and he lost control. He said, quote, "She makes me do things that I would never do." Meanwhile, KGUN-9 also spoke to the victim's attorney in this case, who says the student-teacher relationship was kept in the dark for years. That's because the student did not want to ruin her athletic career, she says.
She felt like, what could she do? If she reported this, she would lose her scholarship. She wouldn't be able to graduate. She wouldn't be able to achieve her dreams of being an Olympian. She was trapped. Being coerced and threatened is not consent.
In the police report, the victim told police she was using Carter as a confidant, but when he started text messaging her at all hours, it was just crossing a line, she said. Carter pled not guilty in court to charges of aggravated assault, threat or intimidation, stalking, and interfering with an educational institution. He's set to be back in court on Monday morning.
Also in the news this morning, a Davis-Monthan airman wanted for deserting from the Air Force is in custody this morning. He's Juan Manuel Cantano. The Air Force called for his arrest last week, but it wasn't until yesterday that he actually turned himself in. Police considered him armed and dangerous. The Air Force put out an arrest warrant for Cantano for desertion, aggravated assault, and kidnapping. They say the staff sergeant threatened a superior officer with a pipe. He's also accused of threatening a woman with a knife while she drove him around town. A month of police work has landed 2 suspected burglars behind bars this morning. A witness says they saw Jesus Vireta and Samantha Emerson steal credit cards and car keys from a home near River and Sabino Canyon last month. Rincon Directed Patrol worked closely with detectives to track down the couple. They were arrested Saturday and charged with burglary and conspiracy.
And also new this morning, the search for 2 New York prison escapees moves to the border now.
Here's what's making headlines around the nation this morning. New York State Police just released these progression photos of what the escapees may look like after 10 days. Police also handing out these wanted posters of the 2 escaped killers along the Canadian and Mexican borders. Officers are expanding their search for the 2 prisoners. It's Richard Matz and David Sweat. It's been 13 days since they escaped from a maximum security prison in upstate New York. Meanwhile, the FBI says this butcher knife was used to attack an agent during an ISIS-related investigation at a Staten Island home. Investigators say agents arrived at the home to conduct the search. That's when a man tried to stab the agent. He was not seriously hurt. The agent wasn't. 21-year-old Munthar Omar Saleh is charged with conspiring to provide material support to ISIS. Court documents show Saleh planned to set off an explosive device in the New York metro area.
And new this morning, it's not just Arizona. California is also dealing with a wildfire right now. The lake fire, as they're calling it, started yesterday. It has already burned 50 acres and is threatening buildings in the San Bernardino Mountains. More than 100 firefighters, along with fire air tankers and 11 fire engines, were sent to battle this fire. Nearly 200 people were evacuated from summer camps nearby. No injuries, though, have been reported yet. The cause of that fire still under investigation. In Alaska now, another 300 firefighters are joining to help fight against wildfires that are threatening communities near Anchorage. Both fires were human-caused and have displaced hundreds of residents there. In addition, a third fire was started by lightning over the weekend. Fire officials say the fire has grown to nearly 4,000 acres. Officials are concerned the fire will double in size by the weekend due to dry conditions and high winds.